the SwiftOtter 2023 Certification Challenge. I am really excited to be here with you all today. You might notice a slight difference in the environment here, and that is because I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually in Chris's studio. So we have a studio set up at Chris's place, and we use a very similar background to what we use in my studio. So it's actually a privilege to be hanging out here at his place and to see the world from how he sees it, as he is also greatly has made massive achievements in the coursework that he has developed here for us. Really excited about that. We're gonna get it kicked off here in just a minute. I see Lucas and Anna here. Welcome, come on in. We are getting this started. I'm really excited to talk about some certification area or topic of concern today. And I say you don't want to miss this topic because, how do I say this? It's a subject that is kind of gnarly, and it's a subject that has ultimately, I would say, gained Magento, Adobe Commerce, a lot of fame through the years. And it's a subject that I would say its competition is just now fully grasping, or maybe in some ways actually able to pass it in some ways. So this has been a subject that of great value around the Magento platform, and it's complicated. So I'm hopeful to dissect this in a way that makes sense for all of you wonderful people who are going to be participating in our conversation here today. For those who are just joining in, Adam, Javier, Mohammed, good to see you all. Come on in. I'm going to pop up a question here on our screen. Rate your study thus far. And this is also a way just to say hi to everybody, to hear from you all. And those of you who have not already popped in and said hi, just drop in. How is your study going? We have nothing. We have been hammering this critical aspect of consistency. You have to be consistent in order to be successful. I mean, I guess this goes for most areas of life, which is understandable. But at the end of the day, this consistency is what's critical. So again, the story of the tortoise and the hare. If you if you start slow but consistent, you are much more likely to succeed. Who was I talking to the other day that? Oh, I know. Yeah, that basically it was the same concept. There was just great excitement starting on the beginning, but you know how this stuff is. It kind of fizzles out, and at the end of the day, it results in failure. And that's why we're doing the certification group. Well, one of the reasons is I want to see success for every single one of you. It takes a while. It's not necessarily easy, but at the end of the day, it's achievable. It's not like, well, I'll be honest, Master Architect, that top level test, was probably one of the most unachievable ones previously. Why? Because to what I had seen was there was an 84% score to pass. Now, a number of you have said, well, it was maybe a mistake in the documentation, but no, one of our people took it and failed, getting in the 60% percentile range. So it was definitely set at 84%. And so that was what I would consider a fairly unachievable task. And there's some other factors on Master Architect that made it more or less unachievable. But all the rest of these are very achievable. And now I would argue that Master Architect is also achievable. They dropped the passing score down to 58%, 84 down to 58. You got it. Any one of you who are ready to go, you got it. It's game on now for Master Architect. So I'm excited about that. All right, Vaibhav, welcome. Repertoires, welcome. Scrumptious people. That is a good word. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day here. I'm in Missouri, and it's absolutely beautiful day. I went on a walk with a buddy of mine here for 15 minutes. See, I'm on this regimen where I have to walk at least 10 minutes a day. For me as a developer, that's kind of hard for me to do. I'm an inside person, but my wife is slowly working on me, so I'm enjoying my walks a little bit better. Repertoires has a value of 3. Fantastic. That's really good. Johnny is a 5. Way to go. And let's see if anybody else has other comments here. But this is good to see. Welcome. Come on in. We're about to, well, we have already gotten started, but we are definitely, we haven't yet started talking about the meat of our conversation today. So we will be getting there shortly. Just want to make sure that everyone has had their morning coffee. Getting coffee going is the way to do this. I had my coffee this morning, except that for me, a little interesting fact that none of you need to know, but if I have coffee in the morning, I literally cannot sleep at night. So I don't drink caffeinated coffee. Makes for something that makes a difference there. I don't know. So it is unfortunate because I do like to drink coffee, but I just can't stand the caffeine. I can drink it in the form of an energy drink, but not coffee. Weird thing. Anyways, morning coffee and morning pancakes. Nice. That sounds good. All right. Really quickly, as always, I like to make sure we start these. Oh my! We have to hold on for 1 second here. If this is legit, like we got to put this comment up here. No coffee, just raw liver. If this is a legit comment, you are a better person than me. I am just now starting to get to like sushi, so raw liver is way out of my league at this point. So if good for you, good for you. I am sure it's a very, very healthy thing to eat raw liver. So kudos there, and you probably are going to live longer in this life than I. So that's I well done there. Well played. I like that. All right. 100%. Okay. I got it. Good for you. 100% legit raw liver. Mock Kinkaju, good for you. Like I said, you're going to live longer than me. Like it. That's great. That was a great way to start this off. Nice. Carnivore. That is a legit carnivore diet. Nothing short of that. That's hardcore. I like it. Good. All right. Let's look at this here. We got to make sure if you are watching this, if you have not already joined our challenge, make sure to go here. Just drop your information in because ultimately we're going to be doing some giveaways here at the end of this for those of you that have achieved or that have joined this challenge. And we're not like we're going to spam you or anything like that. Those of you that have achieved this challenge, and then those of you who also then get the pass. So those of you that join, you are able to we're also going to give you a special little badge on your that you can post on your LinkedIn profile saying that you were a participant in this, and then obviously those who pass, we're sending you a shirt as well. So pretty excited about that. Anna, dinner in India. Hope that was a good dinner. I just had delicious breakfast. Kind of an American thing, sausage, gravy, and biscuits. I don't know if people had that too much. Anyways, let's walk through what we've talked about in previous weeks. Just as a quick reminder, this right here, in all you might say honesty, is an area that is of a great challenge for me. Don't check your email, and ultimately it comes back to this little piece of glass and plastic and silicone and who knows what other maybe toxic chemicals are in the form of a phone. This is probably one of the greatest curses to me as a person. And so ultimately, I've been reading the book Digital Minimalism here with some of my team members here recently. It's been an absolutely fantastic read. So this has nothing to do with certification challenge, but it has everything to do with certification challenge. And here's the thing. Digital minimalism, I'm going on what's called it's not like a detox. I forget the actual term. Basically, you're getting rid of Reddit, YouTube, anything that can suck my time away. And I was driving this morning, and there were so many times I wanted to reach down and just check my phone. I can't do that. It's really good for me to just axe all that out of my life. And in the case of studying, studying for a test, a phone, your distractions on your desktop or laptop, whatever, those notifications are probably one of the greatest hindrances to you actually getting the time to study. Just, you know how stuff happens. We're in this mode, we're excited, and something pops up. Oh, shoot, we got to take care. Oh, wow, look what just happened this morning. And we read a news article or whatever. Like, this stuff is designed to pull us away from our mode of thinking. So the more you can put do not disturb on, get rid of your phone, eliminate notifications, i.e. distractions on your desktop, this is going to be helpful for your overall study process. So that's really good. Cannot believe how you made a raw liver a positive thing. Hey, I'm impressed that somebody can do it. Like, sushi for me is like next level, and I'm getting to that level. So I'm not saying that raw liver is like going to be my thing, but I have great admiration for people who can eat such a material. Lobster. I remember eating raw lobster. That was probably 15 years ago. Maybe I could eat it now, but that was that pushed my limits. That was no, it wasn't raw. It was boiled. It was boiled lobster. That pushed my limits. So but that now I can eat oysters and all that stuff. So maybe I could eat raw liver. Maybe I'd say that was the best thing ever. It just can't get past that raw liver. It's just hard. Anyways, that's great. So don't check your email. That is absolutely first, far away, and the most important thing. Wow, we're on a food conversation now. Muhammad eats raw. Okay, this is good stuff. All right, so don't check your email. Don't get distracted. Stay focused on this task of getting certified. So that's number one, is focus. And again, I have to put more dumb gifs in here. I don't know what movie this came out of, but this is a great one. Get your eyes set on this task. And again, it comes back to don't let your project manager, your boss or manager, whoever take you off the school. Chances are they were the ones that wanted you to get the certification. And now they say, hey, look, Mohammed or Lukash or whatever, we have this incredibly important project. We have to get it done yesterday. Tell them, look, I'm following the original orders. I have to get my certification done. Keep studying 15 minutes a day and you'll get it. Just keep it up. Oh, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, not Mohammed. Thank you, Mohammed. I need to read the spelling here a little bit more. All right. So here is what I want to talk about today, and that is scopes. Scoping in Magento is one of those areas that's utilized, but I think it's kind of not fully understood. And I want to shed light as far as how they work and make it really practical here. I think those of you who are studying for the business practitioner exam will find this slightly more engaging. Those of you who are for developers, there is less of the test that is actually dedicated to this. So, but you're going to maybe find this slightly less helpful. But at the end of the day, it's still really important for everyone who is participating in this conversation. We are going to talk about scoping in Magento. Really, really important subject. So the basic overview is this. This is far and away the most important thing to understand. So we have what you could say in technicality, there are 5 scopes. Ultimately, it's not used that much. Like this, it's not used extensively at each one of these levels. So chances are merchant maybe uses maybe a couple of these levels, but not everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's walk through this list here. So the first item in this is the default scope. The default scope would be anything that is specified in etcconfig.xml. We could also somewhat argue or put into this like environment variables, anything that's in app etc config.php. And the cool thing about environment variables in app etc config.php, well, ultimately it also can be an env php as well, is it literally locks these values in store configuration. So if we're coming in here, let's there we go, this one right here. We come into our store configuration. If a value is set in an environment variable or app.etc config or env.php, it is impossible to change that. See right here, I can just uncheck this. Oops, let me hide this so you can see my screen better. It is so we can uncheck this, change this default value, whatever. Like that's easy to happen. However, if I had this set in app.etc env.php or config.php or as an environment variable, I would not be able to I would not be able to change this. It would be completely locked out. So that is one thing that is very important to understand and to remember, which is ultimately a powerful tool in controlling what actually goes up to production. Is this idea of using app.etc config or env.php. Now, really quickly, for those of you who are developers, what would be the difference? Well, the difference is that app.etc config is designed to be, it should be committed to your version control repository. So we are going to, we lock this in, and ultimately it's going to be the same on your local development environment up into your integration environments, staging, and then out to production. App.etc config is the same. Now, env, as you probably well know, is going to be different per environment. It's going to have your database connection information. It's going to have, Redis connection and maybe a couple of varnish details, etc. Like that's the stuff that, your crypt key is usually in app.env.php. It should never be, I guess, in config.php because, again, that's committed. It's public. I mean, not in the form of actually being public, but it's public because it's the same. It's proceeds through your development environment all the way out to production. The other thing to consider, and I say it can be stored in env.php, is you can store it in your environment variable, which is a interesting strategy for security, storing anything in your environment variables, because ultimately it's not even on the file system. It could be not inaccessible via SSH. So you could see that as an extra layer of security there. So we have this global scope, which ultimately either predefines the value, like in Etsy config.xml, or it is makes it inaccessible to be changed. A great thing, for example, to throw into, well, you could put it in app Etsy env.php, or you could put in environment variables, would be, for example, payment gateway connection details, right? You would say you could argue that there is little reason that a merchant needs to go change these values. Ultimately, if they need to change these values, perhaps there should be a testing period. They should have a developer involved. Maybe there should be instructions if they need to go change these values, whatever. Like, you can lock those in at that point, and you don't really have to worry about somebody accidentally going in, deleting them, or causing a problem in that way. So that would be one option in this way. Hey, got us call out, hey, Magento Explorer and Abdul, good to see you on here as well. So this top level is very important, the default level, and I would suggest that it's probably underutilized. Feel free to store values in app.etsy config.php. This is really helpful. You could even, just another idea here, you could even use this for feature flags. So when you could create a store configuration value, or building a new feature, create a store configuration value, feature flag it, use it in your deployment process. If you want to do some quick testing on production, it's by default disabled. You flip it on, do some testing, turn it back off, easy. Okay, once it's gone through all its processes, well, then you could lock it on at that point, and use app.etsy config to lock it on. So there's possibilities there, just to control how this goes through the process. The other thing I will mention is feature flagging is never a bad idea, and especially in this context of how we do use scopes. For example, you could build out a feature that is available for a given website or a given store view, etc. So that would be feature flagging is not ever a bad idea. Which kind of brings me to my, almost my second point. One thing you will notice here as we browse and go through store configuration and actually other places like products in categories, is this little set of brackets right here below each configuration field or an attribute for a product. Those brackets, it was funny. Like, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago that I fully it clicked for me. Like, what is this? What is this here for? These brackets indicate what is the, let me make this a little bigger here. They indicate what is the scope at the lowest scope at which we can make this change. And again, we're going to talk about what these different scopes are, but that's that scope that you can make this change. So in this example right here, we see that website is set at the allow countries is set at the website level, whereas default countries set the store view level. So we can go here and we can change to a website, the main website level, and we can obviously change this here, and we can drop down into default store view. Now, what happens here at default store view is that option here goes away. Now, this is a little different when it comes to the scoping on product pages. So whereas in store configuration, if we are at a lower scope than what is available, so we see we're here at a store view scope, and again, we're going to talk about each one of these scopes, but just looking at the overall breakdown of how this works, I click on main website, go back up, and we see allow countries appears again. I drop back down, and we see that allow countries is gone. So this is Magento's way of controlling what can you set where for store configuration. Now, the reason I say this is a little unique this is interesting, because if we come over to products, and let's drop down this list, and we see that we cannot change this. We cannot change to the main website. Well, that's very different than store configuration, right? If with store configuration, we would be able to go click into the main website, change values at that level. Well, products are very unique in that you only change values at the store view scope. Well, your question probably is, and it's a great question, Joseph, what happens when we see an attribute like the product here that's set at the website level? Fantastic question, because I'm going to answer it here. And I know the answer to that question. That really does make a question better when you know the answer to the question. Side note, it's always funny when you have a question that's asked like in a live setting and the speaker goes, great question. And that's usually a precursor that they don't know the answer. I've been there, I've done that, so I'm not saying anything about anybody else. It's just I know the feelings. Like you get lobbed a question, it's like, oh wow, it's a great way to buy some time. Think about your answer. So there's a little clue there. But all that to say, at the end of the day, this is unique in that what we have to do is we select uncheck use default value, and then we can change this value. Now, watch when I say enable product. I'm going to say set no. Joust duffel bag will disappear off our website. I'm going to come back here to our Spanish store view, drop this list down, and we see that enable product has also disappeared here. Why is that? Well, because we are changing into a different store view scope. If I had a different website, a B2B website that I was able to select here, of course, this would be enable product would be enabled again. So the way to look at editing product attributes when it comes to scopes is that we can only edit at the store view level and typically skipping a scope here. So it's kind of like merges it into one area. So if I want to change a website attribute, I have to go down to the store view scope. I can flip the value there, but it affects all store views within that website. It can be kind of confusing in that way. And the other thing that's really important to note for all scopes, and there I think are questions on the test talking about this concept or this problem, is overrides. In Magento, there is no good way, and unfortunately, Magento is what? Magento 2 came out in 2016. That's is that what 8 years, 7, 8 years old now? December 2015. This will be what 8 years here this year. This December. It's what 7 years old right now, and it still doesn't have a way to see if a value is overridden at a scope. So right here, I am in the default scope. Right, this is just I click into this page. This is what I would see by default. Now let's say this default country is overridden for Spanish. Say it's for Mexico, or I don't know, just pick another country, Spain, whatever. So we have the default country has been changed, but I'm looking at it here. I'm like, I'm going to the store view. Why is this like this? Because it's set to use system value, and what changes here? Well, it's ultimately been overridden at the Spanish level. This is especially problematic for products. Why? Because there is a known bug, and to my knowledge, it hasn't been fixed yet, although I have seen code to fix it. We fixed it ourselves on a number of occasions, that there are some circumstances, and I believe importing products is one of them, that it actually, if a product, if you just have a product with one website store and store view, it can actually start overriding it at the store view level. Right? Even though you have one website, one store view, it overrides at the store view level. It's a bug, because then you start changing the website level and the values by default, like that's just where you're changing it, or global, I guess in this case, you change the global values and nothing changes. So if you run into a situation like that, go take a look at your product configuration and drop down to a store view and see what the value is there. Very likely, almost, I'm going to say guaranteed. Let me come down to our content area here. This box will be unchecked and there will be a value in it. That is ridiculously maddening. And then when you go clean up the database and then it happens again, you clean up the database, happens again. It's like, where in the world is this coming from? And we've done some serious tracing on this, and importing is typically the number one way, although it can happen it can happen in the admin as well. So if there's an update, if any one of you have an update on this, this was an impromptu side note here. I did not prepare for saying that. So if there is an update on this, I would certainly welcome hearing about that. Okay. I hope you're tracking with me. If you have questions, just drop them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. But let's keep moving on because we have more to cover here. So, the next, so we have default. That is just as by way of reminder. Default is app.etsy env, app.etsy config, environment variables. Those lock store configuration values. We also have Etsy config.xml that presets configuration values. So that's the default level. Then we have the global level, and that is when you just go into your Magento admin and you start clicking around. That's the global set, right? There's no other, it's basically affects everything at that level. So pretty intuitive. Basically everything is changeable at this level. I lost. Isn't there the ability to import tax rates? There's the ability to import something. Oh, no, that's right. Let's come over here into sales and delivery methods. Table rates. What's interesting about table rates here is I'm going to show my screen again. Is table rates are, you have to import these values. Well, this is the only case that I'm aware of off the top of my head that you are that a configuration option opens up at a website or store view level. Like everything is available at global, and then only some things are available at website and fewer things are available at the store view level. Well, in this case, it's kind of reverse, and I'll call that out here just for your reference because on Business Practitioner, there can be some questions related to setting up shipping methods. It is on there. So if we drop down to main website, so I went into, for all of you to follow along here, I went into delivery methods, and we drop down here to table rates, and we see the export pull up. So basically, this is not available at the global level. This is not available at the store view level. But guess what? It is available at the website level. So there you go. This is the only thing that I'm aware of. There could be other ones, but this is the primary one that I'm aware of that actually has, that is not available at the global level. Everything else pretty much is. And then filters off, the values drop off as we go down this list. So a really important aspect to understanding these, to grasping these in full, is where does each one of these apply? Now, we talked about default, we talked about global, pretty much applies everywhere. There's not much to talk about as far as understanding the big concept of those. Those are easy to grok. Where we start getting a little more tricky is when we get into the website. And I am laying this out here, so take good notes. You want to memorize this level, this information here. So website is primarily for feature switches. If we're turning on or off something, it's probably going to be at the website level. Case in point is right here. Take a look right here. Back in our shipping methods, enabled, yes or no. We come up here to general of, let's see here, content management, I think. No, this is the store view. Oh, I don't have the B2B suite. I was going to show you that. The B2B suite does not appear to be enabled. All right. Well, let's see here. General, there's probably, be some information. Website restrictions. Yeah, we see that we have access restrictions at the website level. Generally speaking, payment methods are at the website level. So I think there's some more information in checkout that was at the website level. Most you're going to find enable clear shopping cart. Most feature flags are going to be at the website level. Do we want enable or disable the whole B2B suite? Which again, I thought I had this enabled on this installation here. Clearly, I don't. The B2B suite is all going to be going to be enabled or disabled at the website level. Yep, I definitely do not have it enabled. I'm missing shared catalog. So we'll be talking about that more here as time goes on in our study groups. By the way, if there's any of you who have not joined our study group, we're still running them, and they're going really, really well. We're going to have our next one next Thursday at this very same time. And this is more general knowledge for getting into and understanding how to study this really important topic that applies to everything. The whole idea of developer versus business practitioner is very widely disparate. And ultimately, as you dive into professional developer versus expert developer, quite a wide gap there. Less, but it's still quite a wide gap. So at the end of the day, we have these study groups where we dive into the very practical topics of each one of them. It's $99 US. There's discounts for those of you who are overseas. And this it's going really, really well. Great feedback. And I'm really excited about it. So it's from the fact that this is a way to help train up on very specific knowledge. So keep that in mind as you are looking to continue learning. So website is feature switches. Keep that in mind. We have to remember feature switches goes to website. And I'm going to talk about how this applies into taking the test here in a little bit. Carrying on, we now have our stores. Store is the most weird scope. I'm just going to put it out there. Nothing short of that. Store scope is weird. In some ways, I don't understand why this is in the system. Again, very bluntly. It is, so we have to figure out why it's here. You're not going to see any store configuration that allows you to change at the store scope like this. There's again, nowhere is it going to stay store. There are only a couple of places that this store scope applies. What are they? Well, there is a store switcher, and right here would be, that's the store view switcher. I think it's actually, yeah, this is a store view switcher. But there's normally is a store switcher down here. But I think because I only have one store, this does not appear. So there is a store switcher, but here is really what stores are about. Stores are about catalogs. So if we come in here to our stores, all stores, the store is about which catalog or root category is shown right here. This is the number one most important part of why a store exists. In other words, you can have two sets of root categories. Let's say you sell completely different sets of types of products. You sell coffee mugs, and you sell electronics, right? And you have different websites for each one of those. Well, maybe they're pretty similar as far as a website goes, and perhaps you might sell a couple. You might have some cross-pollinated products. So you might sell a coffee maker on your coffee mug website, and you might sell that same fancy widget coffee maker on your electronic website. So it's not completely different sets of products. There might be a little cross-pollination. And so ultimately you would have two different structures for how to browse these websites, right? It's not going to be, electronics where you have, computer memory and or like computer hardware and cameras and I don't know, whatever categories you would have in a situation like that. And then you would trying to fit coffee mugs and ground coffee and, coffee makers into that. It's completely separate sets of navigation. At the end of the day, it's you would have two different structures of categories. And to do that would be two different stores. Now, you can house a store underneath each website. Well, one thing to note here, and I didn't explicitly say this before, but I'll just make sure I say this, is that it has to be a full tree. So every website must have at least one store. Every store must have at least one store view. That tree is complete. The website is browsable. There's no getting around that. But a website can have multiple stores, and a store can have multiple store views. So it is kind of like one of those tree effects, like a family tree, if you will. So in this case, a website can have multiple categories. The question is, well, why not just create two different websites? And there might be a need for that. But at the end of the day, the biggest reason to push back on creating a separate website is what I would say performance and management concerns. When I say performance concerns, you are basically replicating the product catalog is indexed based off of, four different values. The product catalog, the price index, is price indexed off of four different values. You have the product, you have the customer group, you have the tax class, and you have the website. If you have two websites, your price index doubles, which means the time to load does go up, and I don't think it would double, but the time to fetch values from that table will increase. The time to actually build out those, I'm guessing that would roughly double. And so there can be performance concerns. If you're selling 100 products, it's not an issue. If your catalog is, say, 1,000 products, and let's say, or actually in one of our customers that we work with, let's say it's what 30, 40,000, and you have, I think they're pushing 100 customer groups because they're using B2B with shared catalog. Do have multiple tax classes. You add a website and so right now I think they're what 5-10 million rows in the price index table. You add another website, that count automatically. I think the math would be that it doubles. So we're up to, like it said, 5 to 10 to be what 10 to 20, somewhere in there, million rows, which that can start having at least a impact on performance. So again, small website doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, trying to reduce the number of websites in your store, the better. Now, from a management point of view, if you don't need to have a separate website, this is less overrides to actually happen. And so it's less things to forget about, less things to remember. Fewer things to forget. Yeah, that would be right. So keep that in mind when it comes to this. And a lot of the goal of these related questions on the test are all about what is the minimum number of website stores and store views. I will say that there is a question on the practice test for business practitioner that literally dives into that very topic. And I'm going to talk about a similar question here in a couple of minutes. But the answer does seem to be wrong. So keep that in mind. Those are kind of the most hated questions. They're difficult to answer, but we're going to break apart how to approach those type of answers. I say that not to scare you, but just to help. We've had a number of questions about that. So remember, we have website, store, and store view. Store is literally to separate out catalogs of products or introduce different navigation structures for these products. That's literally all a store is for. My opinion, that could have been rolled into something separate, but yeah, that was designed and built probably back in 2007 or 2008, and it's been around in this form roughly since. All right, so finally we have store view, and this is really important to understand. It is the final level, you might say. Maybe that's makes it most important. But store views are for translations and currencies. However, there are some interesting hacks that can be had as we understand what specific areas are set at the store view level. So ultimately, the store view level is, let's say we have an English website and we have a French website. Let's say we sell into Canada or US and Canada. Well, actually, we should add Mexico in there too. So that would be English, French, and Spanish. We would probably create a separate store view for each one of them. And then we would go into our store configuration like this, and we would set the locale. So we would change the locale for this given store view. Pretty easy. I will note that I believe in production mode, you have to have a developer make this change because it can result in, it will result in having to rebuild rebuild the styling on the front end. So this is not necessarily a change you would just go into the admin and make whenever you feel like it. This is going to be part of the development process to get this set, to make sure you have all the proper translations in place, etc. So again, we talked about this recently, with some people, in that in Magento the language is explicitly tied to a store view, and so if you want to launch a new front end or whatever, if you want to launch a new a new language, you have to create a new store view. That's ultimately what we have right here. Back on here, when we have default store view going to Spanish, those are tied together. There's no way to separate out language from store view. Those are explicitly tied together. Which again, in Magento's architecture, I see how that makes sense. There's probably more layers than necessary, but that's how it was architected. So language is equal to store view. Now, store view doesn't have to always equal language. You can have, you could technically create a B2B store view on, you could technically create a B2B store view. Well, here's the question. Why would we do that? Again, it comes back to management, perhaps improving the price structure pricing, performance concerns, etc. I will call out here a couple of subjects that store view affects that we wouldn't necessarily think of. So coming back here into our product area here, we see that, let's pull up to all store views. We see that we have our global store view, etc. enabled product is set at the website level. So in other words, if we want to enable or disable a product, it's going to be done at the, we're have to, if we want to have like have a product completely enabled or disabled, i.e. just not browsable at mystore.com/product URL. If we want to completely disable that, we would have to disable the product. There's one other option in doing that, but hear me out there. So enabling or disabling the product is the primary way that we would think of to do that, and that would necessitate a separate website. However, there is another trick here, and that is with this visibility. We see that this is settable at the store view level, and we can set it to be not visible individually. Now, this does also make it so that you cannot browse it at that level, which could be desirable. So there might, if the requirements are very minimal for a new scope, I'm showing you these because at the end of the day, we might be able to save CPU power, might be able to save some headaches by literally just creating a new store view. So not visible individually would effectively disable this product on this website. Or you could set it to be just search, or you could set it to be catalog and just not include it in that root category. But if you were to use any one of these lower three options here, which is interesting, I have these. That's interesting. I don't see this appearing on my screen. I'm clicking this drop-down menu. It's not showing up here. If you were to select any one of this three, catalog, search, or catalog, then the URL is actually browsable on this website. So we're just going to leave it at catalog search for now. The other aspect of this, continuing on this idea of browsable or not browsable, is you will notice that store view is available at, enable category is available at the store view level, same as include in menu. So there is the possibility of literally turning on and off categories at the store view level, which I think gives you a little more control. Any questions about what we are talking about thus far? So remember, these are the key points here. So global, we have is our primary. That's the default. When we go into store configurations, automatically at the global level, we have website is primarily for feature switches. We have the store, which is kind of like the lost child. It just hardly appears anywhere. The only reason we pretty much use it is for changing the root category. And then finally, we have our store view, which is our translations and currency. We're going to talk about each one of these a little. Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in getting a little more practical. Oh yeah, I did not call out that we have a theme and design changes also for store view. So if we wanted to, just literally, if we had two front ends that are identical, then we could selling basically the same product, same content, whatever. I mean, you wouldn't do that, but you could have different themes for them. We can set up different home pages for each one of them. We can make CMS content CMS content does apply at the store view level, and I will show you this here. Turn this off. All right, CMS content does apply at the store view level, so we can set completely different hierarchies of content in this way. So here, this is in Adobe Commerce. We can set it here. Let's see here. Where is page and websites? There we go. So we can assign this to a specific store view. So CMS content applies either to everything or to just an individual store view. So again, CMS content would be considered translatable. That's why it is at the store view level. One other thing. I am glad that my notes here me on this, or the slides actually. Currencies. This is a big gotcha and ultimately in the test. You are probably going to see questions. Can't guarantee it, but you are more than likely to see questions related to you developers, very specifically. In a table, we have in the order sales order table, we have a columns called like grand total, and then we have base grand total. And I remember it was confusing. It's like, why? They're the same values in this. Why do we have this? Well, here's the reasoning. Base grand total is the value in which the grand total that is calculated for the website scope. Grand total, so i.e. not base grand total is the total that was calculated in the store view. So remember, store view is about translations. Website is literally the ability to compartmentalize off these different websites. So we can change the currency in which product prices is specified at the website level. Here is where it becomes very confusing, and I will do my best to make this not confusing for you all. Coming over here into store configuration, we have catalog, storefront, and it's under price actually. Under price here, we see the catalog price scope. Catalog price scope is set to either global or website. For example, let's say, and from a performance perspective, this is probably not ideal, but just hear me out. Let's say we want to have one backend fulfillment center, and we're going to just one Magento instance. We want to sell to people in Europe and we want to sell to people in North America. Well, we will have different product catalogs and perhaps maybe some of the products are the same, but we have different prices. So the Europe price catalog prices are completely different than North America, right? We have like import duties and shipping, and maybe some products are heavier, so it's a little more shipping. Like, it's not like we can just apply a flat 10% lift in pricing, right? So at the end of the day, we can set our catalog price scope to be website. Now, this is a very important note right here, because we can then come into let me just save this here for the sake of demonstration. Come back over here into general currency setup, and we can set our base currency at this level now. So we can set our base currency at the website scope. So I can drop down into, give it a website. I can drop down into there and set the base currency as US dollar. I could also set it to be euros. Okay, so if I set it to be euros, this Europe is set to only be in this the euros currency. The other impact that this has now is this base currency is the currency in which a customer's credit card is charged. So if we are again in US, we charge out in US dollars. In Europe, we then charge in euros. Run it to the credit card processor or the bank, in that case, more likely in euros, which makes it a little bit more friendly and maybe avoids transaction fees or currency conversion fees for the customer in this case. It makes it much more like it's on their territory. So this base currency is a very powerful contributor. So again, remember, base currency is the currency, and I haven't summarized it like this, so I will summarize it now. Base currency is the currency in which the product's price is specified, and all the way to the price that the customer's card is charged. Now, this is different than allowed currency. Allowed currency is, let's say it's US dollars, but our store view says to show it in pesos for Mexico, for example. It's just a currency conversion. So we have, say, the product is $10, and however much that amounts out to be in pesos, it will just simply convert that out. When the time comes to charge the customer's credit card, it's going to bill it in US dollars, but it's going to consistently show it as well in pesos. I believe at that final screen, it does show it in US dollars just for the customer reference. So it's going to convert it over just to a currency conversion as opposed to a completely different base price. So base currency is the currency in which the product's price is specified, as well as the customer's card is charged. Magento can convert that out into a allowed currency, as I call it, which allows the customer to easily see, to kind of do the math for them, but nothing past that happens. So this is a really important thing to consider. Where this can become problematic is, let's say you have a price list. So you've uploaded your product prices already in euros. The base currency is set to euros. But let's say your store administrator forgets that they need to upload their product prices in dollars. And so what they upload it, they forget they need to upload it in euros. So they upload it in dollars. Well, then Magento is going to do a double conversion, effectively a double. It's going to look like a double conversion, right? So you upload it in US dollars, and it's converting off of dollars to, well, actually, no, it would not. If you're selling in euros, you would not convert it. So it would then show it in US dollars, which could be a problem there as well. So base currency is one of those gotcha things. The good news is that when viewing products, if the product price is shown with a currency symbol next to it, so there's like the redeeming value there. This dollar sign does change if it's set to euros, for example. Very good. I hope this is making sense as we go through this. There's a lot more we can cover, and I would love to. We could probably take an hour or two on this, but we're going to have to shorten this up. I show we're coming up to time. Ultimately, I have scenarios that I would like to run through, or at least recommend that you run through. This is recorded. You can come back through on YouTube and check out the values on these. You definitely want to do some investigation with multiple websites. How does base currency affect this? What value is set in the database for the sales order table, etc. So this is very important to work through. Here's another one with the scenarios. The ship to applicable countries. You can kind of map a country to a shipping method. As far as with the store view, it's not very intuitive, and I'm not going to run through that here, but just try to figure out a solution, a way that you can get that to work. With that said, I think we're going to wrap it up here today. Is there any questions or anything I can do to help you all out? And just to remind you, we do have our Slack channel, swiftotter.com/Slack. And it's a great place to ask questions, to get information, get advice, etc. So swiftotter.com/Slack and ask your questions there. I am quite pleased to say that is the second largest Magento group out there. We have worked hard to grow it, build it, and make it a really quality community that has good support and good feedback. Repertoire says it's not possible to cram everything in 15 minutes a day. Yep, that is a challenge, but you have if you can get 15 minutes a day, you're going to be ahead by just doing it, being consistent, cutting it off. Unfortunately, that stinks. I know it, but just cut it off. Next day, get back in there. 2 to 3 hours a day. Yeah, that would be nice. If you can learn for 2 to 3 hours a day, that would be a good thing. But at the end of the day, that's not something that I know I can do, and maybe I hear that's not something that most people can do. So if you can do it, that's fantastic. All right. Any other final questions before we wrap this up for today? If not, feel free to jump into swiftotter.com/Slack, ask your questions there, and we will do our best to answer that and continue the conversation. Very good. All right. Well, it was an absolute pleasure being with you all. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Keep studying. As Repertoire says, it's a trap. It is a trap. So you got to study. You got to study. And once you get in, fall into that trap, you got to keep it going. So pick something that is manageable long-term, and you will be successful. Keep up the great work, and we will see you either next week if you're part of the study group. Hopefully you all are, or 2 weeks from now where we will continue the conversation. Thank you, and we will